This is basically the screen. If you actually get access, when you get there, that's the login screen. It pops something up, and it asks for a user ID and password. It is secure in that sense, so it's not open to everyone in the world. To give you an idea of the kinds of things you can do, you can go into the database. And in this particular screen, this is simply looking at some of the data. I know you can't read that, so don't worry about it. This is just a way of looking at some of the database. It has a wildcard. It has kind of a wildcard match here, and that actually is a B star. And what it'll do is it'll actually pull out everybody whose family name begins with a B, pulls them up on the screen. Associated information appears over here about the individual. So the individual that I've highlighted here, and I can't even read the name. When you highlight it, it tells you things like number of offices, and it gives you a breakdown of the offices. And that's for one individual. So that's the information on the right side for that one particular individual. And then up here you can actually go in and add information, and it allows you to add information iteratively. So you can add a name and then quit, and then come back and add data and so on. So it was designed to allow students or others to add information incrementally over time, because as I said, there is a lot of data to be added. And I would suspect this is going to continue as we work with locations and familiar relationships and so forth. So that gives you a quick overview of the kind of data in the screen that's accessible. So the database today has 1,600 individuals, 1,618 as of yesterday's count. We have information on over 4,000 individual offices that those individuals have held. The challenges, precision of dates, as I mentioned, that is a challenge, and that did present some challenges, and it still presents some challenges in terms of analyzing the data. Standard relational databases don't really give you a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to do certain kinds of computations, and that presents a bit of a challenge. The other part of this is, and Bill, if you're interested, can talk more about that, and that deals with the sources. A lot of this data comes from different sources, and so one of the key parts of the database was, as data is entered, there was a mechanism for people to record the source and where that data came from. So in fact, it goes down to the particular office and where that information was contained, so that in fact, if there needed to be any kind of tracing back, Bill could go back and identify exactly where the source of that data came from. So that's actually been taken into account in the design of the database. Okay, so that was a quick overview of the database. I don't really go into the boring technical details. So we've been working on this for a while. It got to the place where the data seemed to sort of gel, and you're starting to get more useful data into the database. And once you get to enough data of a certain size and scope, then you can actually begin to do something. So we've been looking at various ways of analyzing the data. So a couple of the things that I started doing was to pull histograms off. And histograms basically just give you an account of things in certain categories. And it's just a way of looking at distributions of things. We'll have some examples here in a minute. More recently, what we started to look at was what generically you might think of as career patterns. And we started doing this by looking at Markov graphs, and I will explain what those are in a second. But let me do the histograms first. So to give you an idea, this basically gives you a count of just looking at military offices. So this basically just goes through and it pulls out of the database, and then there's some software I run which actually does the counting. And it pulls out of the database all of the offices where we have start and end dates. Now, you have to remember that for some offices we don't have that. So you've got to go through and pull out the ones you've got. Okay, so that's part of the complexity involved. And then very simply, it just counts the number of offices that start at certain dates and ends at certain dates. So, and you can see that there's, if you look at the start dates and end dates, there's a bit of a difference, a pattern. Okay, so that's a very simple thing that a histogram can give you. Now, for me, that's a wonderful histogram, and it's perfectly fine, and I'm done with it. So I generate these, and then I send them to Bill. And they say, Bill, does this look like it makes sense? So, Bill, does that make sense?